I am proud to be able to be on the first ever HBCU gymnastics team. This is how we'll do it! To be able to show off my talents at a HBCU is very honoring.
You call today.
And we do begin here tonight with the final preparations ahead of Hurricane Milton. Thousands of people evacuating right now across the Tampa Bay area and getting to safety. Good evening, everyone. Welcome here to ABC Action News at 5. I'm Paul Legron.
And I'm Lauren St. Germain. Thank you for joining us here at 5. That 5
Category 5 hurricane winds of 165 miles an hour. We talked about this yesterday. As this storm was going through what we call an eye wall replacement, what happens is it weakens pretty significantly for about 18 hours, and then it strengthens again. It's a bigger storm at that point. Winds of 165. It is now moving east-northeast, so it's feeling the tug of that trough we've been talking about at 9 miles an hour, and the pressure 918 millibars. So warnings remain the same for the entire area. Hurricane warnings and storm surge warnings. The surge numbers are something that may need to be tweaked soon. And Shay and I and Allie, we've been kind of looking at the numbers over the last few minutes, and we're going to see if the surge numbers from the NHC are beginning to hint at a greater threat to the south. Now, if you've been following me on Facebook, you kind of know what we're talking about. We've been seeing this for several hours. This afternoon, there was a wobble of this storm to the southeast. How many times as Floridians have we seen that happen? I mean, it's absolutely impossible to forecast where that and when that is going to happen. But we know with our experience that quite often you get these wobbles, especially as they approach Florida. And 9 times out of 10, those wobbles are to the right. Well, today, that happened. It was small, it was subtle, but I will use the example that I always use. So imagine you're driving a car and you're holding that steering wheel, right? And you turn that steering wheel just a little bit to the right. Well, 100 yards down the road, it isn't going to change very much, your direction. But 200 miles down the road, it is. So that little subtle change, that little wobble, has changed the track. The Hurricane Center has now nudged the track now down toward the south, closer to the Sarasota area. The margin of error, when you look at the cone, remember, this cone has nothing to do. There's no one at the Hurricane Center saying, well, let's make this cone a little bit bigger on this side and a little bit less on this side. All this cone is in terms of time, the average margin of error over the last 5 years. And it should be getting closer because we're now about 30, 34 hours out from landfall. So you would expect the margin of error to be lower. But I'll say this again. We as Floridians know these wobbles are going to happen, and there's not a model on Earth or a human on Earth for that matter who can predict where those specific wobbles are going to occur. But we do know more often than not they're a little bit to the right. So when we take a closer look at that updated track, this line was over Tampa Bay itself, the actual bay, at 11 o'clock, and now it is more south of Bradenton, between Bradenton and Sarasota. We're going to take a closer look at this, but I implore everyone watching this right now, look at the margin of error. Look at that cone of uncertainty. How many times in the last couple of decades have we gone out here and said, and I'll answer it, think of Charlie, think of Irma, think of Ian, heck, think of Helene, because even Helene at the end veered a little bit to the right. Remember how Tallahassee was in the sights? We were all the live shots in Tallahassee, all the trees, everything was going to be rebuilt. And 6, 7, 8 hours later, that track had shifted a little bit, 30 miles to the right. 30 miles is huge in terms of how it would impact the Bay Area. If you get a direct impact right into the Bay, it's going to impact millions of people. If you get an impact a little farther to the south, it's going to impact hundreds of thousands of people. But the point is, I don't want these folks, and even Fort Myers, and heaven knows they know after Ian. You just have to remember this cone of uncertainty remains in play. But we also know that the normal error on these storms, the normal wobbles, are typically to the east and the south. So again, I literally just got this new track. I'm going to have a chance to go over and look at it. I'm not even sure necessarily if the models have updated in terms of the impact for us, but there's one thing that's really important. We've talked a lot about the shear, okay? Look at the rainfall totals north of the eye. 5, 6, 7, 8 inches of rain. Look at the area and the heavy rain south of the eye, significantly lower. The way this is going to set up when this storm moves in, the northern half of that eye wall is going to have a heck of a lot more rain than the southern half. I'm telling you, I think the southern half is going to be practically rain-free from the shear that comes in. But there's going to still be wind. Now, these numbers have nothing to do with the NHC's forecast. This is just a particular model run. And right now, I think it's pretty solid. So this brings, by tomorrow night, winds of, these are gusts, not sustained, winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour gusts. And then by about midnight to 2 a.m., you start to see the winds 80 to 90 mile an hour gusts. Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, 60. And then overnight, 2 a.m. to 6, 7, 8 a.m., you still, inland areas, pick up winds gusting 60 to 80. So, look, we're going to be talking a lot about this continuously. I'll be on Dennis Phillips Live tonight at 7 o'clock straight through, and I'll have a chance to just continue to talk and analyze area by area. But I think at the end of the day, here's my point out of this. We have a track that is shifting south. It is. Now, can it shift back north? Sure. Do I think it's going to? Unlikely. Because usually what happens, we'll say it again, when you get an unexpected wobble to the right, that's going to change things, and rarely do you get them shifting back in the other direction. It can, but the most important thing to remember as you look at these winds, here's your time frame again. We start to see tropical storm force winds in the mid-afternoon. We get the heavier winds, 58 to 73, gusting tomorrow evening. And then the hurricane winds come in around midnight. So we're going to have massive power outages. And even the northern counties, and this is where I don't want to have a mixed message. So I'm sure a lot of people at home saying, oh, yes, if you live in Pasco County or Hillsborough County or Pinellas County, maybe the impacts of surge will be lower. And that is certainly true. But you are going to get some serious wind and some serious rain in that northern eye wall. So Pinellas and Hillsborough and Pasco, if this track verifies, and potentially it might even go a little more to the south by the 11 o'clock advisory, I still think there's going to be major impacts from power outages, maybe a little less with surge. In fact, I'll say not maybe. If this track verifies, surge threat will be lower for the Bay and for Pinellas County. It's still going to be surge. As the storm moves away, we are then going to get an onshore flow. But overall power outages, you can see them in the overnight hours, and it's the worst time. I get it. Everybody's like, why do these things always hit at night? We are going to have widespread power outages in the overnight hours on Wednesday night into Thursday. And then once it leaves to the right, it's going to taper off pretty quickly. So look, I know that was a lot of information we just gave you. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I'm going to have a chance to go over and look at some of this stuff, and we'll talk more about how that subtle change could have a direct impact, possibly more on our southern counties as opposed to our northern counties, and what that means for the Bay Area itself, Hillsborough and Pinellas County. We'll talk more about that coming up, and Polk County for that matter, in a couple of minutes.
All right, all good information, Dennis. Thank you. Meanwhile, we do continue our coverage here tonight with a major warning for people who chose not to evacuate St. Petersburg.
Yeah, city leaders there are warning people they could soon shut off water service as a precaution ahead of Hurricane Milton.
ABC Action News reporter Casey Albritton found out what you do need to know before your water turns off. And Casey joining us live there tonight. Casey?
Yeah, so right now I'm in a neighborhood near the northeast sewage plant, and during Hurricane Helene, tell me they had sewage flood their homes, and that's something that St. Pete does not want to repeat again. So basically, the city says when it comes to timing, officials will monitor the wind and water surge conditions. Once there's more accurate information as Hurricane Milton gets closer, they will decide whether or not to shut down the northeast and southwest sewage plants. This would keep residents from being able to use toilets or showers. Officials say the current sewage plants are not built to withstand 15 feet of storm surge. Residents who got flooded by sewage water during Hurricane Helene say turning off the water early is a good decision.
It's extremely stressful. So like 10, 15-hour days, just, constantly mopping and cleaning. Because when you clean, then it comes back, and then you have to clean again, and it comes, keeps rising up out of the floors and the crevices and stuff. So it's not just like one clean and you're done.
The city of St. Pete is also asking residents who live near construction cranes to relocate, as some of those cranes are not able to withstand winds over 110 miles per hour. And city leaders say to prepare for the water being turned off, you should be stocking up as much water as you can, and also fill your tubs as early as you can. I'm Pinellas County reporter Casey Albritton, ABC Action News.
Okay, Casey, thank you. Well, if you were trying to buy gas in Hillsborough County today, you likely encountered a lot of stations without any fuel or long lines.
We know a lot of people were dealing with this. ABC Action News reporter Adam Walser has been following the last-minute struggle to fill up. Adam.
That's right, guys. We came to a place where we saw on our Gas Buddies app, and in fact, they had just run out of gas right when we pulled up about an hour ago. They've wrapped all these tanks, and of course, that's going on throughout Tampa Bay as people are trying to get filled up before they evacuate. The line to fuel up at the Wawa on Dale Mabry and Waters stretched almost a block long, adding more stress to residents weary from Hurricane Helene.
I've probably gone to 6 stations that are empty. I already fled South Tampa because my house got destroyed in the first storm.
Evelyn Dora is evacuating to Georgia with her family.
My parents, my mother-in-law, my husband, and me.
Some staying need fuel for chainsaws and generators.
I saw that this was open on social media, so hopefully I can get a gas can at least for the generator. So that's all I'm trying to get.
People we encountered found out which locations still had gas using apps like Gas Buddy. Electrician Nathaniel Howe was among them.
Another place I was in line at earlier, and they ran out of gas while I was in line.
Howe said he went to several stations before finding fuel. We also went all over town, finding stations without gas just about everywhere we went.
Obviously, there's a lot of panic buying, so people are buying gas in excess and continuously topping off their tanks.
The shortage is fueled by a mass evacuation as hundreds of thousands of residents are ordered out of their homes ahead of Hurricane Milton. About 1.5 million gallons of fuel per day arrives and is distributed through the Port of Tampa. But that doesn't go far when so many drivers are all trying to fill up at the same time. The port announced its shipping channels were closed Tuesday morning, meaning the next fuel tankers won't be offloaded until after the storm and after the port is safe for normal operations. In the meantime, trucks will continue to deliver fuel already in storage. Governor DeSantis says gas stations should be able to open soon after the storm, even in areas that lose power.
We have 130 generators that are at various gas stations. So when they lose power, most of the newer gas stations or the larger stations have generators per Florida law.
Now, and Governor DeSantis in a press conference this afternoon said that there is gas at those terminals there at Port of Tampa and Port Manatee. So you should check those apps to see when that fuel is arriving at different gas stations near you. Reporting live in Tampa, Adam Walser, ABC Action News.
Adam, thank you. Still to come here at 5, the last-minute prep's underway right now as people get ready to evacuate in Hillsborough County.
You were born in the back of a car. That's why we named you Carson. Now, fix the car, son.
But my name is Josh. Celebrate the grand opening of Dean's Auto Care's new location with a free tire rotation and $29.99 semi-synthetic oil change.
1, 2, 3, pull down! I am proud to be able to be on the first ever HBCU gymnastics team. This is how we'll do it! To be able to show off my talents at an HBCU is very honoring.
It's really important for Scripps News reporters to live where they are reporting.
You got to talk to people from all different backgrounds.
We do stories with people regardless of the political persuasions.
We're coming here as people, as your neighbors.
We know best what's happening in our communities.
And that's why I wake up every morning, is I hope I can deliver folks information so they can make an educated decision. I'm Forrest Saunders,
Ben Brown,
Jake Burns,
Rachel Louise Just, Alex Miller, Scripps News.
Watch Scripps News, find with an antenna, or on your favorite streaming app.
You go get him, Tiger.
It's about time to watch on your time. Whether it's going to be mostly this or partly this, or maybe grab this. It's about time we fit into your schedule. Streaming local weather 24/7. Search for ABC Action News on your device.
ABC Action Weather streaming 24/7 is brought to you by Farrah & Farrah Personal Injury Attorneys. FarrahandFarrah.com, Tampa.
Join us for Tampa Bay's Morning Blend. We've got the food, fun, and the latest events that make the Bay Area great. Plus the best deals you can use. Tampa Bay's Morning Blend weekdays at 10 a.m. on WFTS. Sponsored by the law offices of Anjar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
His identity, a mystery.
Who is he?
His sword, lightning fast.
I challenge you!
His name,
Zorro!
Zorro. Tuesdays starting 5/4 Central on Grid Extra.
Season.
Welcome back. People in Hillsborough County are heeding those evacuation orders.
ABC Action News reporter Mary O'Connell heard from homeowners as they prepped their homes, packed their cars, and drove out of town.
We don't want to take a chance.
That's the mentality some neighbors near South Tampa are taking as they prepare for Hurricane Milton. With Helene in the rearview mirror, they know how bad it can get.
We've seen all our neighbors get flooded. We've seen how Westshore got. We've seen how Bayshore got. We got a little bit of water inside, but luckily not too much. However, this is going to be 10 to 15 feet surges, so I figured, hey, let's not take a shot.
Kevin Zambrano lives in Zone B, which is under mandatory evacuation. We caught up with him just as he was getting ready to leave. His home tarped and sandbagged ahead of the storm.
We put everything that was on the lower end on the upper side, and really we just try to get all the electronics out of the way, turn the breaker off, and pack for 6 days just in case.
Hillsborough County has issued a mandatory evacuation order for evacuation zones A and B and for all mobile homes and manufactured housing throughout the county. People around the neighborhood were busy Tuesday boarding up, protecting their homes best they can.
Everybody that I know of right now on the block is leaving.
Just down the road, Carolyn Vogt also decided to leave. She's lived in her home for over 4 decades, now evacuating for the first time, with a message for others to consider. Doing the same.
Even if you feel stupid and you come back and nothing happened, at least, you know, you did what you thought was best. And I think
outside, Dennis.
Yeah, when I was driving in on Hillsborough Avenue, that's the word I used to describe even the traffic flow, because there were just hardly anybody on the roads, especially compared to yesterday when the roads were just, I mean, the drive from Tampa to Jacksonville was 11 hours yesterday because of all the traffic and taking a lot of side roads at that. So I think, fortunately, a lot of folks did make the decision to evacuate. And like that last person said, look, you know what, if I evacuate and nothing happens, I'm okay with that, because the alternative is obviously not something that we want to hear. I mean, regardless of where this makes landfall, and I get it, obviously, if you live in Pinellas or Hillsborough or Pasco County, you would prefer it would go elsewhere. But it's one of those things you kind of have survivor's guilt, because you never want to pass your issues on to someone else. But unfortunately, that is the nature of this storm. Someone in this area is going to be hit by a major hurricane, and it's now Cat 5 again. And we talked about this yesterday. They went through the eyewall replacement. The eyewall goes away, it makes a new one. It's usually larger. In fact, it's always larger when that happens. And then you then have a storm that can get stronger and has larger wind field as well. Tropical storm, rather hurricane warnings across our area. Storm surge warnings across the coast. Now look, I could literally discuss this for an hour, how it's going to impact everybody, because I know each and every one of you want to know how this is going to impact you directly, and I simply don't have that time, but I will tonight at 7 o'clock. So from 7 to 8 tonight, we'll have a Dennis Phillips Live where I'll literally just go county by county based on that current track. Now, this is the storm surge forecast from the National Hurricane Center. Excuse me, they have not changed it yet. Potentially, after the next advisory, they could, and that change would be to increase the numbers south and decrease the numbers north. That may happen. As a matter of fact, I kind of think that will happen. And all it takes was just a little wobble today when the storm was moving east, and it's now moving east-northeast at 9, but it had just a brief southeast motion for a couple of hours, for maybe 15 miles, 20 miles. But all that does is bump everything over or south 15 or 20 miles. And that completely would change the trajectory of this storm as it's moving onshore. And that's what's happened. That Hurricane Center, I just read it in their discussion. They said flat out, that little wobble that we were talking about all afternoon has changed their path. Now, of course, the question is, can it wobble back the other way? Yes, usually doesn't happen that way. The wobbles as a storm is coming in from the west are usually to the right. Think about all our storms over the years that wobbled. Can you think of many that went left unexpectedly? There's not too many that I can think of, but a lot of them went right. So that's just the way these storms typically play out when they're coming in from the south or the west, and they're being driven by the west. It's unlikely for them to wobble against the flow, against the stream, right? It's kind of like swimming upstream. It's far more likely for them to wobble in the opposite direction, which is closer to the coastline. So this is the updated track as of 5 o'clock. It looks about the same. It isn't. It's a little more to the south. I know you're not supposed to focus on the white line, but I continue to say this is kind of a two-pronged forecast. Yes, the margin of error, the cone of uncertainty is absolutely still in play for everybody. So there's by no means would we ever let our guard down in anywhere, unless maybe you live in Levy County or Citrus County, you're looking pretty good. But the bigger issue, I put the line in because that is where the extreme wind, and just at that line and south of the line is where the extreme surge is going to be. So the question will be, all right, this is where the line is now. It's 15, 20 miles to the south of where it was. Can it go farther south at 11? It absolutely could. I would expect it to maybe be a little bit more to the south, because as I always say, a Hurricane Center goes in baby steps. You know, they typically don't make a drastic change to a forecast, which is good, because they don't want to have to be going back and forth, right? So there's your cone of uncertainty. It goes from Pasco County through Fort Myers. And I honestly think that's a really solid cone of uncertainty. I think if it were to trend in one direction more than the other, that direction would be more to the south. So I say that for folks who are watching us in Bradenton and Sarasota and all the way down to Fort Myers, and then those inland counties of Hardee and DeSoto. I would think don't be caught off guard if you see in the next 12 hours a track that takes it a lot closer to you. But I will say this again, we have done way too much conversation. We've had way too many conversations about prep in Pinellas and Hillsborough to say, well, it's moving south. Look, I was just talking to Paul and Lauren about this. Yes, ultimately, the track may be a little more south, which would put us in Pinellas, Hillsborough, Pasco, Polk in the northern eye wall. And that northern eye wall is by far going to be the heaviest winds, by far, in terms of rain and squally weather. Now, I take that back. The strongest winds of the storm will be right near the center, wherever that is, 5, 6, 7 miles. It's a small storm. We've been talking about that for a while. But there will be extremely heavy rain and gusty winds in Tampa, in Clearwater and St. Pete, but I will say the threat of surge for those counties will be dropping if this track continues to go to the south. So there it is. We have Milton tomorrow. We have Milton early on Thursday. and then actually turning out to be a really nice weekend with lower humidity and lots of sunshine. Action News at 5 continues after this.
Skating for over 45 years has taken a toll on my body. I take Cunol turmeric because it helps with healthy joints and inflammation support. Why Cunol? It has superior absorption compared to regular turmeric. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Home, joy, and community. We all flourish when barriers are lowered and possibilities are elevated. That's why we're growing the way we serve you and redefining what it means to feed our community, so more people than ever before will have pathways to stability. Feeding Tampa Bay. It's possible.
It's really important for Scripps News reporters to live where they are reporting.
You got to talk to people from all different backgrounds.
We do stories with people regardless of the political persuasions.
We're coming here as people, as your neighbors.
We know best what's happening in our communities.
And that's why I wake up every morning, is I hope I can deliver folks information so they can make an educated decision. I'm Forrest Saunders.
Ben Brown.
Jake Burns.
Rachel Louise Just.
Alex Miller, Scripps News.
Watch Scripps News 5 with an antenna or on your favorite streaming app.
Celebrity trials are like no other. You not only have the drama of what's happening inside of the courtroom, there's the drama of who these people are. Paparazzi everywhere, people just hoping to get a glimpse. It's something that we haven't seen anything quite like.
A strong showing for the case against Robert Kelly.
There's this balance between the pizzazz of celebrity and the seriousness of a trial in a courtroom, and Court TV gets to bring you all of it.
Join us for Tampa Bay's Morning Blend. We've got the food, fun, and the latest events that make the Bay Area great. Plus the best deals you can use. Tampa Bay's Morning Blend weekdays at 10 a.m. on WFTS. Sponsored by the law offices of Anajar and Levine, Accident Attorneys.
You go get him, Tiger.
Oh, yeah.
Tampa Bay, all grown, my hometown. Journalism is how we understand the world. It's how we make sense of our time. For me, getting to tell the stories of my hometown is special. As a journalist with ABC Action News, I'm always curious, always searching. From Palm Harbor to Plant City, the Bay Area is full of hardworking people. People who have stories that deserve to be told. I'm Paul Agrone. Tampa Bay is my story.
We're back here at 5 talking about the evacuations across the Tampa Bay area. Thousands and thousands of people told to evacuate ahead of Hurricane Milton.
That's right. ABC Action News reporter Jada Williams is back out on the roads with how it's shaping up right now. Jada?
I was out here on the roads yesterday, and it is completely different from what I'm seeing right now. I'm on I-4 headed west. You can see that where I am, not a lot of people going this way, but it's the same thing on I-4 headed east. Yesterday, around the same exact time, there was bottleneck traffic. We were stopped during the live shot, and it's completely different right now. I met one man who says he lives in Manatee County right now. He got a lot of flooding from Helene. He feels like he's going to get even more flooding from Milton, so he's deciding to go over to Gainesville.
The latest forecast literally goes right over my house with 15 feet storm surge. So there was no question as to whether we were evacuating. But when I left the house, I said, bye house, and I sure hope you're here when we get back. But
so this really puts it into perspective for you. This is not your typical 5 o'clock traffic here, and that means that people have not only listened to the warning, but they listen to the warning very quickly. Officials say that if you plan on leaving or sheltering in place, you just need to make that decision before 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Reporting live from I-4, Jada Williams, ABC Action News.
All right, Jada, thank you. We have much more coverage still to come on Hurricane Milton coming up next at 5:30.
It's really important for Scripps News reporters to live where they are reporting.
You're going to talk to people from all different backgrounds.
We do stories with people regardless of the political persuasions.
We're coming here as people, as your neighbors.
We know best what's happening in our communities.
And that's why I wake up every morning, is I hope I can deliver folks information so they can make an educated decision. I'm Forrest Saunders,
Ben Brown,
Jake Burns,
Rachel Louise Just,
Alex Miller, Scripps News.
Watch Scripps News, find with an antenna, or on your favorite streaming app. Ion is on with 3 networks to enjoy.
Yeah, it's on.
Yes, showtime.
You're going to want to see this.
It's on. Ion, Ion Plus, and Ion Mystery.
Wow!
It's on.
I'm Maritza Giorgio, live from our studio in Missoula, Montana, and this is America Tonight.
Scripps News takes you ahead of the headlines.
We're reading between the lines there.
America Tonight on Scripps News. Find with an antenna or on your favorite streaming app. It's about time to watch on your time. Whether it's going to be mostly this or partly this, or maybe grab this. It's about time we fit into your schedule. Streaming local weather 24/7. Search for ABC Action News on your device.
ABC Action Weather streaming 24/7 is brought to you by Farrah & Farrah, personal injury attorneys. FarrahandFarrah.com, Tampa.
His identity, a mystery.
Who is he?
His sword, lightning fast.
I challenge you!
His name,
Zorro! Zorro!
Zorro. Tuesdays starting 5/4 Central on Grid Extra.
Chat directly with Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips. The weather, the tropics, plus big stories of the day with experts. Download our streaming app or find Dennis on social media for Dennis Phillips Live. Sponsored by ServPro, the #1 choice in cleanup and restoration.
Home, joy, and community. We all flourish when barriers are lowered and possibilities are elevated. That's why we're growing the way we serve you and redefining what it means to feed our community, so more people than ever before will have pathways to stability. Feeding Tampa Bay. It's possible.
On behalf of ABC Action News Gives, the Scripps Howard Fund, and our super generous viewers at home who truly believe in what you guys are doing, we want to present you with a just about $3,400.
Good evening and welcome here to ABC Action News at 5:30, everyone. I'm Paul Legrone. Let's go right to Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips with the very latest information on Hurricane Milton. Dennis.
Hey, Paul, so let's go ahead and talk about what's changed. We're back to Cat 5 again. Winds of 165 miles an hour. I won't get into why that happened. We have a lot more stuff to get into. But we have hurricane warnings in effect. The warnings are all the same. Hurricane warnings, storm surge warnings. The storm redeveloped today a new eye wall. It's bigger. In fact, by landfall, it's expected to be double in size than it is now. Hurricane force winds right now extend about 30 miles from the center. So by landfall, hurricane force winds will probably be 50, 55 miles from the center. Not a particularly large storm like an Irma, like a Katrina, but certainly strong enough, especially if the weakening. I mean, Paul and I were just talking about this. This may weaken to a Cat 3 or even a 4, and you say, well, okay, that's okay. It weakens to it. If I were to say a month ago, hey, we're going to get a Cat 3 or Cat 4 in our area, what do you think? Everybody would absolutely go crazy because we haven't had one in 100 years in the Bay Area directly. But because it was at 180, we're like, well, okay, it's down from 180. Maybe we can handle 125, 130. No, it is still going to be a very destructive storm for the west coast of Florida. Now, for the track, and we've been talking about this on Facebook throughout the afternoon, There was a wobble today, a southeast wobble that the models had not seen. And oh, by the way, models and people will never be able to forecast these wobbles. They are absolutely unforecastable, all right? But it happened, and it went to the southeast for a couple of hours. So when that happens, everything got bumped east and south. We've seen it a million times in Florida. Charlie, Irma, Ian, even Helene bumped to the right 30 miles from Tallahassee. So more often than not, that's the direction they go. So we've been saying this for a few days. It certainly should not surprise anybody that there is a track change a little bit to the right. But the cone of uncertainty still covers from Fort Myers to northern Pasco County. And here's a closer look so you can kind of see what we're looking at. It is certainly possible anywhere in this area could be impacted by landfall. I am certainly leaning more toward the southern half of that line because of that first initial wobble and the chance that there could be more as it gets closer to our area. It's usually not a west wobble because you'll be like a salmon swimming upstream. They, although they do it, storms don't like to do it. So usually you would expect to see a little bit more of a shift to the right. So what that would do is increase the storm surge threat for Sarasota, for Siesta Key, for Venice, and even for Fort Myers. This is going to be a really bad problem for storm surge because as this storm doubles in size, it's going to push more water. Rainfall. All right, let's say that the center does make landfall closer to Sarasota. That would put Pinellas, Hillsborough, Polk north in the northern eye wall, which will by far be the rainiest part of this storm because the bottom half is going to be sheared out. So rain will be higher in these central and northern counties. Winds, let's talk about winds, all right? Tomorrow evening and into the overnight on Thursday, that's when we're going to see landfall and the winds gusting between about 60 and 80 miles an hour across much of the area. Less north, more south. Remember, the extreme winds, most of the heaviest winds will be between about 5 and 7 miles from where that eye crosses. But the northern eye wall, which is where a lot of Pinellas, Hillsborough, Polk will be, Pasco too, is going to get really squally weather and very gusty winds as well. Still, Thursday morning, winds in the hurricane force gusting as it moves across the state and then takes the wind along with it. And by the way, there's going to be some wraparound for the East Coast. And I think areas from Jacksonville to Daytona are going to get some pretty strong winds as well. And I say that because I know a lot of people evacuated into that area. I mean, it's not going to be nearly as bad as it's going to be at landfall, but they're still going to get some weather out of it. Yellow, 40 to 58 mile an hour winds, gusts. That's tomorrow afternoon, just starting to move into the area. Stronger winds, about 9 or 10 o'clock tomorrow night, 58 to 73, gusts. Landfall, overnight, but probably around 1 or 2 a.m., hurricane force winds. Now, this may go a little more to the south. We will see. But either way, being in that northern eye wall, there will be gusts of hurricane force across much of the area from Pinellas, Hillsborough, maybe Pasco, south. The surge risk is higher now for our southern counties, but the wind and the power outages and all the rain is still going to be a major issue for our central and north central counties. The power outages will be scattered tomorrow evening, becoming widespread in the overnight hours. In this particular model, you can see it actually, there's your eye, but I think realistically it's probably going to be more to the south, and we'll see if this changes as the models change. So the bottom line is we now have a Cat 5 hurricane. It may even get a little stronger. There will be weakening before landfall, but at this point in time, the surge, and it's a word that I don't like to use, but I think it's a valid word, will be catastrophic, higher than it was in Helene, which was catastrophic. But the risk is a little lower in the Bay Area and off of Pinellas County beaches if this track verifies south. But we are not out of the woods yet. Let's just keep watching it hour by hour and wait and see if we get any more wobbles. And as we do, we'll let you know 24/7 as we always do. Paul?
All right, Dennis, thank you. Well, tonight, meanwhile, the scramble is on to find higher ground on Florida's Gulf Coast. It is leaving roads packed and hotels booked. But as reporter Katie Legrone shows us, with hotel rooms becoming fewer and fewer, the state is now stepping in with an unconventional solution.
With Hurricane Milton churning closer to Florida's Gulf Coast, the search for shelter far from the water is getting tougher to nail down.
I come here to protect my kids.
To ride out the storm?
Yes.
So what are you guys doing?
We're actually trying to find a place to go now.
I was looking for a room because my sister's in a trailer trying to find a room for her.
And so have you found anything?
No.
Inland hotels across Tampa Bay are going fast. The state working with a number of hotel chains to cut rates, but there's only so much room to go around.
Are you guys booked?
We are. We're sold out actually till Friday.
At this La Quinta Inn near the University of South Florida, all 109 rooms are booked, with many occupied since Hurricane Helene made landfall 2 weeks ago.
We had some construction crews from the storm previous, so we were kind of already booked at the same time.
With so much demand for hotel rooms and not enough of them, the state is now stepping in, using warehouses to help shelter potentially thousands of people.
These are big, like Category 5 proof warehouse type things that can have thousands of people.
During a press conference early Tuesday morning, Governor DeSantis described the shelters as located along evacuation routes near I-4 and I-75 in Polk, Pasco, and Hillsborough counties. In addition to 36 county-operated shelters, these state-run warehouses are one more option for evacuees with nowhere to go.
These are designed to be a shelter of last resort.
I'm nervous. I freaked out this morning really bad.
Still, some will keep hunting, hoping a room opens up before it's too late.
The state will start by opening 4 of these shelters with the option to open more if there's demand. I'm Katie Lagrone, ABC Action News.
Katie, thank you. And the state, by the way, has not yet released the locations of those warehouse shelters. Once they do, we will post those locations on our website, abcactionnews.com. We have much more coverage coming your way next, tracking Hurricane Milton. Stay with us.
At West Shore Home, we're helping homeowners completely transform their bathrooms with our biggest sale ever. This week, get 72 months of no-interest financing. This is something we've never offered before, and it's the only time it's going to be available this entire year. Get your dream bath without a worry because you'll be interest-free until 2030. Plus, for anyone still on the fence, I'm going to do something special. Schedule right now, and you'll get an additional $1,500 off your bathroom remodel. Visit westshorebath.com and lock in this offer before it's gone.
Chat directly with Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips. The weather, the tropics, plus big stories of the day with experts. Download our streaming app or find Dennis on social media for Dennis Phillips Live. Sponsored by ServPro, the #1 choice in cleanup and restoration. ABC Action News Plus. It's local news available anywhere at any time for free. Just download ABC Action News Plus on your favorite device to watch our 24/7 streaming news channel. ABC Action News Plus is sponsored by Culpeper Curland.
Give me something new. I want the real you.
That is the best idea I've ever heard.
Yes, of course we can get you more.
Rex, go!
Angus MacGyver. You know that was fun.
Just give me more.
I didn't hear anybody knock. Shall we proceed?
My boss is the best shot in the whole world. Isn't it exciting?
They call you the rifleman.
Just make it good.
What drew me to Court TV was this opportunity to combine the two things that I love. When I was in college, I studied television and radio, and then, of course, went to law school. And when I found out that Court TV was going to give me the opportunity to express myself and to share my love of the law, I was sold immediately. The most important issue, innocence or guilt. Started as a production assistant, then AP, and then went up the ranks, and really haven't looked back since.
Ion is on with 3 networks to enjoy.
Yeah, it's on.
Yes, showtime.
You're going to want to see this.
It's on. Ion Plus, and Ion Mystery.
Wow!
It's on.
His identity, a mystery.
Who is he?
His sword, lightning fast.
I challenge you!
His name,
Zorro!
Zorro. Tuesdays starting 5/4 Central on Grid Extra.
today.
All right, welcome back. We're here with Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips. I'll be reporting live from Bradenton tomorrow. And as you were dissecting this storm, I mean, there's just so many layers as to how you're going to feel it, where you're going to feel it, and when you're going to feel it. This is as it gets closer, it actually gets more complicated.
It does. And I mean, let's be honest, and Floridians know this. You know, the models can only do so much. Yeah. They're not going to be perfect, and there will be wobbles. Unexpected wobbles. Right. I mean, literally what happened today was Milton took a southeast wobble out of nowhere. I'm sure there was a reason why. It may have been because it did that eye wall replacement cycle and was kind of lopsided. So you imagine a ball that's lopsided rolling, and it might roll a little bit to the right real quick. Now, the difference is it would not go back the other way like a ball would for a lot of reasons. But right now, we are looking at we'll get into this, but this storm is now Cat 5 and getting stronger again. So let's not lose perspective of what's going on. There's some rain going on across our southern counties. You know, the rain extends. This really has nothing to do with Milton. That's way down in the bottom of your screen. All right, so the storm itself is getting much, much stronger. And as it gets stronger, it's going to expand in its coverage. So we've been talking a lot. You've heard, I mean, look, I get it. It's selective hearing. Wherever you're watching me from, all you want to hear is how is it going to impact me for most folks? You know, how is this going to impact me and my family and where I live, my neighborhood? And I totally get that. From our perspective, you know, we're still looking at one of the strongest hurricanes ever to form in the Gulf. And this would be one of, if not the strongest ever to hit the west coast of Florida if it were to stay as strong as it is right now. We don't believe it will for a number of reasons. But when you see a pressure of 905 millibars, folks, that's the real deal. That, again, is coming back down to what could very easily be the strongest recorded hurricane ever. Now, that was Wilma, 888. So it's got a ways to go there. But still, this is in the top 2, top 3 list of strongest hurricanes ever to form. And one of the reasons is because it's so small. It's a lot easier for small storms to get cranking, but it's also more likely for small storms to weaken quicker. Now, it went through an eye wall replacement yesterday, and in doing so, that weakened it. But it also set it up to strengthen later because it made it larger, and that's what's happening. The storm is getting larger, and we expect it to nearly double in size by landfall. Hurricane force winds right now extend 30 miles out from the center. So by landfall, hurricane force winds will extend about 55 miles out from the center. I'll say this again. The first 40 miles of that 50-mile range are winds 75 to 85. It is the extreme wind right around that center, maybe 10 miles, 5 to 10 miles, where you're going to get most of your wind damage. The problem with the surge is going to be the catastrophic thing we're talking about, because this storm expected to double in size. Wind speed has nothing to do with surge. It's purely how big is this storm and how much physically, the size, and how much water can it push. Well, it's going to push a lot of water, and most of that water is going to move onshore at and south of landfall. All right, so this is the 5 o'clock advisory. If you're just tuning in, if you didn't happen to see it on Facebook, the track has gone more south. I suspect that will continue a little bit. I would not be surprised if the NHC bumps it a little bit more south at 11 o'clock. But obviously, this lessens the storm surge threat for the Bay Area. It does not eliminate it. It lessens it for the time being. And sometimes we kind of feel like we're a dog chasing our own tail when we're forecasting these things, because we can forecast it as much as we want to, and then all of a sudden you get these little wobbles, and you're like, dang, all right, well, I got to start over again and where the track is. And that's exactly what happened. This track moved because of an unexpected wobble. But as Floridians, we kind of learn to expect those wobbles, don't we? I mean, more often than not, we get these wobbles that kind of go back toward the coast, toward the east. It's very rare to see them go to the west. Usually they're back in. So with this update, the storm surge threat will be higher from Sarasota southward. Does not mean we will not see any in the Bay and off of Pinellas and Pasco County. It just means if this trend continues, then that threat will be lower. But it certainly isn't zero, right? Lots of rain, obviously. And because of the shear that's going to be coming in, and if you want to know what shear is, probably don't. But if you want to, we'll be talking a lot about it during Dennis Phillips Live tonight from 7 to 8 right here on your television station as well as streaming and Facebook. But because of the way this is setting up, we're going to have some of the fiercest rainfall in the northern eye wall, because the southern eye wall, wherever landfall is, south of that, there's not going to be a lot of weather there, believe it or not. There'll be wind, but not rain. So I think the way it's going to set up is you're going to have a band of extremely heavy rain and wind in Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Polk County and into Manatee, even if the eye crosses down here. So overall winds expected between 80 and 100 miles an hour. That's what the gusts were probably going to end up being around the eye, with an area of about 5 to 10 miles where they're going to be much higher where landfall occurs. Right now, the thinking is between Bradenton and Sarasota. We'll see what the 11 o'clock advisory brings. We'll see what the new models run. Can I say there's not going to be any more wobbles? I certainly can't, because they happen. They just do, and they are absolutely impossible to predict. So overall, the winds start to come on shore as tropical storm tomorrow afternoon. They get stronger in the evening. Hurricane force winds roll in overnight. They move right across the state. So the corridor, the I-4 corridor, is going to get hurricane force winds all the way to the East Coast. And that will lead to massive power outages, isolated in the morning and afternoon, becoming widespread in the evening, and continuing into the early part of Thursday. So that's what we got. We're going to continue our coverage throughout the evening, as well as, again, Dennis Phillips Live tonight at 7 to 8 o'clock, right here on your ABC Action News stations. ABC Action News at 5:30 continues right after this.
Tampa Bay, Paul LaGrone, my hometown. Journalism is how we understand the world. It's how we make sense of our time. For me, getting to tell the stories of my hometown is special. As a journalist with ABC Action News, I'm always curious, always searching. From Palm Harbor to Plant City, the Bay Area is full of hardworking people. People who have stories that deserve to be told. I'm Paul LaGrone. Tampa Bay is my story.
You go get him, Tiger. Oh, yeah.
I'm Maritza Giorgio, live from our studio in Missoula, Montana, and this is America Tonight.
Scripps News takes you ahead of the headlines.
We're reading between the lines there.
America Tonight on Scripps News. Find with an antenna or on your favorite streaming app.
1, 2, 3, hold on! I am proud to be able to be on the first ever HBCU gymnastics team. This is how we'll do it! To be able to show off my talents at an HBCU is very honoring.
Bounce elevates and celebrates the achievements of HBCUs all year long.
From the classroom to the field, we are making history.
Bounce HBCU Yearbook.
Home, joy, and community. We all flourish when barriers are lowered and possibilities are elevated. That's why we're growing the way we serve you and redefining what it means to feed our community, so more people than ever before will have pathways to stability. Feeding Tampa Bay. It's possible.
Ion is on with 3 networks to enjoy.
Yeah, it's on.
Yes, showtime.
You're going to want to see this.
It's on. Ion, Ion Plus, and Ion Mystery.
Wow! We got something that you're gonna love.
It's on.
sky.
Coming up next at 6 here, our I-Team following through today on the race to dump what could become dangerous debris from Hurricane Helene as Hurricane Milton makes its way to Florida. Stay with us.
Closed captioning is sponsored by Dimmitt Automotive Group, serving Florida's Gulf Coast for over 100 years.
Bounce elevates and celebrates the achievements of HBCUs all year long.
From the classroom to the field, we are making history.
Bounce HBCU Yearbook.
It's about time to watch on your time. Whether it's going to be mostly this or partly this, or maybe grab this. It's about time we fit into your schedule. Streaming local weather 24/7. Search for ABC Action News on your device.
ABC Action Weather streaming 24/7 is brought to you by Farrah & Farrah Personal Injury Attorneys. FarrahandFarrah.com, Tampa.
As we go through this hurricane season together, my goal is to keep you informed while letting you know what to expect. No hype, just the facts. No matter what happens, we've got you covered right here on ABC Action News.
On behalf of ABC Action News Gives, the Scripps Howard Fund, and our super generous viewers at home who truly believe in what you guys are doing, we want to present you with a just about $3,400 check to help with your mission here at Stricker Sunshine Rescue Ranch.
Rescue is very hard emotionally to see these horses come in and see how their owners have failed them.
We also got you feed for the horses.
Thank you very much. Seriously, without the donors, we couldn't do any of this.
It's really important for Scripps News reporters to live where they are reporting.
You get to talk to people from all different backgrounds.
We do stories with people regardless of the political persuasions.
We're coming here as people, as your neighbors.
We know best what's happening in our communities.
And that's why I wake up every morning, is I hope I can deliver folks information so they can make an educated decision.
I'm Forrest Saunders,
Ben Brown,
Jake Burns,
Rachel Louise Just, Alex Miller, Scripps News.
Watch Scripps News, find with an antenna, or on your favorite streaming app.
The shared experiences we have right here in the Bay Area shape who we are. And it's these stories that deserve to be told. As a journalist with ABC Action News, I've spent years involved in the community and with the people who live here. It's my responsibility to listen and take the time to get each story right. I'm Wendy Ryan. It's a privilege to tell your story.
Join us for Tampa Bay's Morning Blend.
We've got the food, fun, and the latest events that make the Bay Area great.
Plus the best deals you can use.
Tampa Bay's Morning Blend weekdays at 10 a.m. on WFTS.
Sponsored by the law offices of Anjar and Levine, Accident Attorneys.
Call today.
Good evening and welcome to ABC Action News at 6. I'm Wendy Ryan.
I'm Paula Groen. We continue tracking Hurricane Milton tonight. Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips is here with the very latest track on Milton. Just about an hour ago, Dennis, it's back to a Cat 5, and there's been a wobble here. I know you've been dissecting this data as it's been coming in.
Yeah, Paul, those are actually the two key points that we've been talking about here. First of all, this storm is blowing up again. We're back to 165 miles an hour. The pressure is now down to 905 millibars. If it drops down into the 800s, you're looking again at a record-breaking strength. So this is a storm that wherever landfall occurs is going to bring catastrophic impacts. Where landfall occurs in terms of the wind field is more important. But in terms of the surge, look, it is going to be a very large surge event, especially from where that landfall occurs south. And that is the other key part of this forecast. Because while we still have hurricane warnings and storm surge warnings in effect for the entire area, and we still have a strengthening hurricane that for a brief period of time today, for about 2 hours, took a southeast wobble. Just that little wobble, that 20 miles, completely changed potential landfall by 15 or 20 miles. And you say, well, what's 15 or 20 miles? 15 or 20 miles is the difference from a landfall in the bay itself or south of Bradenton. And in terms of impact for the Tampa Bay area, it would change the heaviest impact of surge. Maybe not so much wind, and we'll get into that in a minute, but for surge, because remember, surge happens especially where the center, the eye crosses land and to the south. So if the track was right over the bay, which is what the Hurricane Center had at 11 o'clock, that would bring a 10 to 15 foot surge right into the bay and into Pinellas County. But a 20-mile shift to the south changes that. And instead of an onshore flow for the bay, it's an offshore flow. In other words, the water is pushed out of the bay. Now, once the storm passes over, regardless, water will start to return and there will be some surge, but nowhere near what could be if the track stays south of the bay. And unfortunately, this increases the risk of a higher surge to areas like Sarasota, Siesta Key, and all the way down to Fort Myers, because what's happening is this storm is getting larger in size. I mean, it's obviously stronger, but it's also larger. And in doing that, the larger it is, the more water it pushes. That's all storm surge is. Nothing to do with the wind. All it is how large, how big of a size the storm is and how much water it can push. It's going to double in size before it makes landfall. Rainfall. Good news, bad news, based on this current track for Pinellas, Hillsborough North. If this track goes more to the south, then you're looking at a lower storm surge risk. But unfortunately, you're looking at a higher rainfall risk because of the way that shear is going to break this storm down. I'm telling you, when you look at this, when it makes landfall, it's going to look split in half. The northern half is going to look like a massive hurricane. The southern half may not have rain at all because of that shear that we've been talking about that's going to eat away a lot of that energy and a lot of that moisture south of where the eye crosses landfall. But where it crosses and south is where the surge will be highest, and it's also where the most intense winds will be, right around that center. So it changes everything in terms of this most significant surge, but in terms of wind, and this is what, you know, a lot of folks who don't live on the water are obviously far more concerned about wind than surge because the surge doesn't impact them directly. So you look at the wind tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, you're having tropical storm force winds across our southern counties. Inland areas will get it later. This storm is going to cross the state, and it's going to cross the state at an angle similar to Charlie. In fact, I'll tell you, we have a text thread within the weather department, and a couple of days ago, I even said Charlie 2.0 question mark, because you just know, for whatever reason, these storms have a tendency to kind of wobble or bump to the right upon landfall. So if you have a track that is a little more to the south, I mean, it's going to go right through those inland areas, Polk County, just like Irma did. Bartow had a wind gust of 110 miles an hour with Irma. So these winds are going to be strong inland in the overnight hours Wednesday night into Thursday, anywhere from 80 to 100 to 110 miles an hour. We are banking on the fact that that shear should weaken this storm. Paul just asked me this a couple of minutes ago. I mean, is there a chance that it won't weaken that much? I mean, there is a chance. And that is the last thing we want to talk about. But if this goes to only a 3 or maybe a minimum 4, you're talking even more damage along that path. Outside of it, remember, hurricane force winds only extend, you know, today, right now, 30 miles. Tomorrow, maybe 50 miles. So if you have a track down closer to Sarasota, most of Pinellas, Hillsborough, Polk North will be on the fringe of it. But those southern counties, and you can see the heaviest winds begin to move in tomorrow night around 8 o'clock. That's the heavier tropical storm force winds, and the hurricane force winds extend overnight through 2 or 3 a.m. And then once this moves across the state, that's 5 a.m. on Thursday, there will be widespread power outages. I mean, we're talking overnight, the worst time. Why does this always seem to happen at night? But by the overnight hours on Thursday night, or rather Wednesday night into Thursday morning, you will see extreme power outages before things slowly start to improve. So the changes, we now have a Cat 5 hurricane again. It's getting stronger. The track has been shifted a little bit to the south at the 5 o'clock advisory. And by the way, the models are continuing to show that movement a little bit to the south. And we'll talk more about that coming up in a couple of minutes.
All right, a lot to pay attention to, Dennis. Thank you. We are monitoring traffic conditions at this hour as more Floridians evacuate from Hurricane Milton. Live look here on your screen right now from the I-4, I-275 interchange in Tampa, and another live look at I-75 north near Ocala. The road's looking much better tonight compared to yesterday. We are expecting all of our major bridges to close at some point tomorrow. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge closes when sustained winds and the speeds reach up to 45 miles an hour. Troopers monitor the Howard Franklin and the Gandy bridges and tell FDOT when they need to close. Tampa and Clearwater police officers make the call on when to close the Courtney Campbell Causeway. After landfall, crews will do some safety inspections and work to reopen the bridges as soon as possible.
And as more Floridians prepare to evacuate, these are the sights many of us saw today. Gas stations with lines of cars wrapped around the corner while other gas stations actually ran out of fuel. State leaders say it's not an issue of supply. This is video of Florida Highway Patrol troopers overnight escorting that fuel from Port Tampa Bay to gas stations across the Bay Area. And during a news conference this afternoon, Governor Ron DeSantis says the state is working around the clock to keep those gas stations stocked with fuel.
We have 268,000 gallons of diesel, 110,000 gallons of regular gas on standby. That's just from the state. You still have the fuel at the ports that are being brought in. But then we also have another 1.2 million gallons of both diesel and gas that are currently en route to the state.
The governor says there's no longer any fuel coming into Port Tampa Bay and Port Manatee, but he says those ports already have plenty of fuel on site that will continue to be delivered.
Tonight, people living in Pinellas County are concerned about all of that debris left behind after Hurricane Helene.
Our I-team has been examining decisions made by county leaders that residents say delayed all that cleanup. And today, the county gave residents just 7 minutes notice that they would stop collecting all that storm debris at noon.
Investigative reporter Kylie McGivern today continuing pushing local leaders for answers.
We're just outside of Pinellas County's solid waste facility in St. Pete, where the state is continuing to run storm debris collection with the help of the Florida National Guard. Earlier this afternoon, we went to a county site that was for residents where people showed up to a locked gate.
We came over here just try to find something, and he was like, "Oh, I remember this place that they were accepting, but it doesn't look like they're accepting anything right now."
We're gonna keep it.
Ernesto Ramirez and his son Alejandro were caught off guard by the county's decision to close this dump site at noon. They now plan to secure the debris in the bed of his truck.
It's too early.
Yeah, I think they should have.
Because most of the people, they got off today. So today is the day where they're gonna be prepared. If you close this area, you don't have anywhere to dump it.
We're already prepared at home, and then there's just like the last thing that we're trying to do.
We asked Pinellas County officials about the decision to stop debris collection operations on Tuesday, while other Tampa Bay areas continue collecting into Wednesday. We've talked with folks who were surprised to see that ending so early today. I just want to open it up for you all to explain that decision.
We've had county crews that have been going nonstop around the clock for over 2 weeks. Remember, this is the same group of people who have been doing Hurricane Helene response work. And so at some point, which was today at noon, we did have to cease operations to make sure that we give them an opportunity to finalize plans, evacuate their families, and heed the same warnings and the same orders that have been shared with the rest of our community.
We then asked about the notification given less than 10 minutes before noon.
We shared that finalizing storm debris removal was really, the time to do that was yesterday. Today is really when people should be getting to their safe place.
The county's landfill will continue to remain open as the state runs the site. I also spoke with someone from the Florida Division of Emergency Management earlier today, and they said a second site is also opening at the Household Waste Center in St. Pete. That will be open until 7 a.m. on Wednesday. In Pinellas County with photojournalist Randy Wright, I'm I-Team investigator Kylie McGivern taking action for you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. And just to put this into some perspective here, debris pickup in the city of Tampa is not stopping until 3 p.m. tomorrow. That is more than 24 hours after Pinellas County stopped debris collection there.
Next year at 6, Sarasota County is expected to see a major impact from Hurricane Milton. We hear from residents who are packing up and leaving their homes unsure of what they will come back to after the storm.
Home, joy, and community. We all flourish when barriers are lowered and possibilities are elevated. That's why we're growing the way we serve you and redefining what it means to feed our community, so more people than ever before will have pathways to stability. Feeding Tampa Bay. It's possible.
Join us for Tampa Bay's Morning Blend. We've got the food, fun, and the latest events that make the Bay Area great. Plus the best deals you can use. Tampa Bay's Morning Blend weekdays at 10 a.m. on WFTS. Sponsored by the law offices of Andjar and Levine, Accident Attorneys.
ABC Action News Plus. It's local news available anywhere at any time for free. Just download ABC Action News Plus on your favorite device to watch our 24/7 streaming news channel.
ABC Action News Plus is sponsored by Culpeper Curland.
On behalf of ABC Action News Gives, the Scripps Howard Fund, and our super generous viewers at home who truly believe in what you guys are doing, we want to present you with a just about $3,400 check to help with your mission here at Stricker Sunshine Rescue Ranch.
Rescue is very hard emotionally to see these horses come in and see how their owners have failed them.
We also got you feed for the horses.
Thank you very much. Seriously, without the donors, we couldn't do any of this.
1, 2, 3, Bulldogs! I am proud to be able to be on the first ever HBCU gymnastics team. This is how we'll do it! To be able to show off my talents at a HBCU is very honoring.
Through the journey of spelling, children learn more than just letters. Local spelling bees not only showcase academic achievement, but also instill values like sportsmanship, teamwork, and the joy of learning.
It's not just about winning. It's about the journey, the growth, and the impact
on every participant and every community.
Spelling bees, impacting lives one word at a time.
The shared experiences we have right here in the Bay Area shape who we are. And it's these stories that deserve to be told. As a journalist with ABC Action News, I've spent years involved in the community and with the people who live here. It's my responsibility to listen and take the time to get each story right. I'm Wendy Ryan. It's a privilege to tell your story.
It's really important for Scripps News reporters to live where they are reporting.
You get to talk to people from all different backgrounds.
We do stories with people regardless of the political persuasions.
We're coming here as people, as your neighbors.
We know best what's happening in our communities.
And that's why I wake up every morning, is I hope I can deliver folks information so they can make an educated decision. I'm Forrest Saunders,
Ben Brown,
Jake Burns,
Rachel Louise Just,
Alex Miller, Scripps News.
Watch Scripps News, find with an antenna, or on your favorite streaming app.
We are expecting severe storm surge, which could exceed 16 feet. You must evacuate now.
That is the strong message from the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office tonight. Trucks going around there telling folks to evacuate.
And with Hurricane Milton's track slightly shifting to the south right now, it's more important than ever to follow those evacuation orders. We have a crew in Sarasota tonight seeing if residents are listening to those orders.
I'm Michael Paluska. We're here on Lido Beach, and, you know, this street, like many streets just really across the entire Bay Area, is lined with debris. We knew that crews weren't going to be able to pick all this stuff up, and if we get the worst end of that 10 to 15-foot storm surge that they're predicting in this area, this stuff's going to be everywhere. A lot of people have been out boarding up their homes, getting sand, trying to do whatever they can to prepare for the storm. We haven't run into a lot of people, which is good. They've evacuated. But we just spoke with one gentleman who, you know, it's heartbreaking. He's lived in his home for 30 years, and he told me he's just preparing for the worst.
Mentally, I'm ready to say goodbye, and that's, you know, I'll do what I can, but yeah, I hope it's here in a week from now.
Like a lot of people, probably preparing, like he said, to say goodbye to their homes. And it's the reality here, and it's heartbreaking. We're going to be chasing this storm as it moves up the coast, and hopefully we get some good news with that shear, and it breaks apart and isn't as strong as it's predicted. We're here on Lido Beach. Michael Paluska, ABC Action News.
Yeah, Mike, that's the hope I think all of us have. Unfortunately, this storm has gotten stronger. We talked about this yesterday. So when there was weakening going on, it was because of what's known as an eye wall replacement. In other words, the eye kind of dies out and a new eye develops, an eye wall develops rather, larger, stronger in many cases, and definitely a broader system. So what's happened now is you have a larger storm, and unfortunately, it regained much of its strength. Not all of it, but let's not mince words here. This is a 165-mile-an-hour Cat 5 hurricane. And I think a lot of us, and Mike just said it himself, you know, we're hoping that maybe it drops down to a 3 at landfall. If a month ago, if I went up to you and said, hey, we're going to get a Cat 3 hurricane, what are your thoughts? You freak out. It's a major hurricane. It has not happened in 103 years in the Bay Area. So it's all about perspective. A 3 is still a massive storm. A 4 is even bigger. And while we have hurricane warnings, while we have storm surge warnings, there was a shift in that track today, which I think will have more of an impact on surge than it would on overall wind and rainfall. All right, so today, and we've been talking about it this afternoon on Facebook, there was a wobble. And if you've lived in Florida long enough, you come to expect these wobbles with hurricanes. They almost always happen, and they are absolutely unpredictable. You just can't predict them. Models can't predict them. People can't predict them. We just wait until they happen, and then we adjust accordingly, right? I doubt we'll ever have the science to get that. But that wobble took what was an easterly track and went southeast for about 2 hours, about 20 miles. So what that does is changes the track to the east and south 20 miles. So 11 o'clock, we had a track directly into the bay. 5 o'clock, we have a track 20 miles far to the south. So it isn't anything technically in terms of, well, the models are seeing something differently now. No, they just initialized it 20 miles farther to the south because it wobbled today. And we all know that more often than not, these wobbles happen upon landfall. And think about it. How many times, if a storm's coming up north, do you see a wobble in this way? It almost always goes downstream, closer to the coastline. So it would not surprise me at all if we see another one as it gets closer to landfall. And that's why this cone of uncertainty is still extremely important. I mean, do I think it's going to wobble more to the north? It's not impossible, but it's certainly unlikely. I think if there were to be more of a change, it would probably be a little bit more to the south. So what that means to us, you kind of split it in half. Our northern counties, Citrus, Hernando, you know, your chances of seeing a higher surge event are much lower. But unfortunately, our viewers in Sarasota and Manatee, and I'll tell you all the way down to Fort Myers, are quite a bit higher. So we will see how things shape up. But look, guys, we're 30 hours away from landfall. So we really shouldn't expect much more of a change. I take that back. There won't be any changes because the weather ingredients have changed. The only changes we're going to see right now is because of those unpredictable wobbles that can then shift the track eventually. Now, so what does this mean to us, okay? It means that the northern part of the eye wall, which will be the strongest, this is going to look like it's cut in half from that shear that Michael talked about. When you look at it tomorrow night, you're going to look at a hurricane. North, it's going to look like a hurricane. South, it's not going to look like much at all. And that north eye wall will be over our central counties, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Polk, and Pasco. Southern counties will be dealing with more wind, where that eye moves ashore, and the larger risk, which is the surge. And that surge is going to extend all the way down to Fort Myers. And right at landfall, or just south, a 10 to 15-foot surge is expected. Now, how will that surge impact the Bay Area, the Bay itself, Pinellas County. If this goes down toward Sarasota, that surge will be significantly lower because you'll have an offshore flow. The water will be pushing out. A lot of folks are asking, will the bay drain again? Kind of doubt it, but it will lower, that's for sure. Winds tomorrow night, 50 to 60 miles an hour about 8 o'clock. Midnight, we see hurricane force winds along the coast, around the coast, and it completely goes across the state. This will travel across the state, meaning Orlando will have hurricane force winds. Polk County will get hurricane force winds, and it all moves off to the east by Thursday morning. That means widespread power outages tomorrow night. Tropical storm force winds roll in late afternoon, early evening. Stronger tropical storm force winds arrive between about 8 o'clock and midnight. Hurricane force winds roll onshore between 11 o'clock at night and 3 a.m. It goes right across the state. And by Thursday morning, it will be moving offshore, where they will be getting quite some nasty weather on the East Coast as well. So again, tonight at 7 o'clock on Dennis Phillips Live, we're going to be talking a lot about this. We'll have complete details for you in terms of how this is going to impact the area. I believe we have a graphic to show on that. Between 7 and 8 o'clock, we will be there live answering your questions and giving you the latest as we get constant changes on Hurricane Milton. Action News at 6 continues after this.
Home, joy, and community. We all flourish when barriers are lowered and possibilities are elevated. That's why we're growing the way we serve you and redefining what it means to feed our community, so more people than ever before will have pathways to stability. Feeding Tampa Bay. It's possible.
When a story comes full circle, it means you're exhausting every resource, investigating every angle, asking the tough questions that lead to answers.
Would this not further divide the country?
We debate, we discuss, we challenge viewpoints. It's bringing clarity to the issues affecting you. This is our city. This is our state. This is Full Circle, Florida.
The shared experiences we have right here in the Bay Area shape who we are. And it's these stories that deserve to be told. As a journalist with ABC Action News, I've spent years involved in the community and with the people who live here. It's my responsibility to listen and take the time to get each story right. I'm Wendy Ryan. It's a privilege to tell your story.
I'm a judge. I loved being on the bench. I want viewers to see that, to know what it's like to love being in a courtroom and to love watching what happens in a courtroom.
This is a case where I think you can believe either side based on the evidence being presented.
Here at Court TV, we can show you everything. And I hope at the end of the day, they've learned a little something about what it takes to try a case and why it's so important that it's done well.
It's really important for Scripps News reporters to live where they are reporting.
You got to talk to people from all different backgrounds.
We do stories with people regardless of the political persuasions.
We're coming here as people, as your neighbors.
We know best what's happening in our communities.
And that's why I wake up every morning, is I hope I can deliver folks information so they can make an educated decision. I'm Forrest Saunders.
Ben Brown.
Jake Burns.
Rachel Louise Just.
Alex Miller, Scripps News.
Watch Scripps News, find with an antenna, or on your favorite streaming app.
On behalf of ABC Action News Gives, the Scripps Howard Fund, and our super generous viewers at home who truly believe in what you guys are doing, we want to present you with a just about $3,400 check to help with your mission here at Stricker Sunshine Rescue Ranch.
Rescue is very hard emotionally to see these horses come in and see how their owners have failed them.
We also got you feed for the horses.
Thank you very much. Seriously, without the donors, we couldn't do any of this.
78.
Welcome back. Coming up at 11, we have extensive team coverage on a special edition of Tampa Bay Tonight. Our crews are gathering the very latest information on storm preparations as Milton approaches. And Scripps reporter Ruta Alcenaida sent us an update from Tampa.
We'll tell you how local businesses are pitching in and getting the job done themselves to get people sandbags.
During the special edition of Tampa Bay Tonight, we will have the very latest on evacuation efforts, gas lines, debris concerns, and much more at 11. ABC Action News will be here with you before, during, and after the storm. As you're preparing to evacuate or hunker down now, please go ahead and scan that QR code on your screen to download your mobile and streaming apps. When you leave your house, you can take your Roku or other streaming devices with you and stay updated on the latest storm developments.
Good to know. And here's another resource for you as well. This QR code takes you right to our hurricane section on our website. We've got all the very latest on evacuation orders, school closures, shelters, and any updates from local leaders as well. You can find this page by going to abcactionnews.com/hurricane.
And as we finish preparing for Hurricane Milton, so many are still struggling to recover from Helene just 2 weeks ago. If you'd like to help their recovery, we are raising money for hurricane relief through our ABC Action News Gives campaign. It will bring you to our ABC Gives campaign page online to donate. Every dollar that's donated will go right back into our local community to help their recovery.
All right, ABC Action News, always on when you need us.
Make sure to download ABC Action News Plus, and remember, we'll see you for DPL at 7.
Kentucky fans, it's your guy Deion Walker. Do y'all want to be a part of something big? You got to join the 15 Club, the only club that gets you into exclusive events. I mean, you like autographs, right? We'll sign your face. You can even gritty with Barry on. Y'all ever heard of John Legend? Yeah, he did a concert for us. Still not convinced? You can hear it from the man himself.
What's up, BBN? This is Wando Robinson of the New York Giants. The best way to support the UK football team is joining the 15 Club.
The 15 Club is the way to support UK football. Join today.